must be careful about listening too much to the media and the world's propaganda in the last days. Hello and shalom. This is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 4 of Era, which means "and I appeared." The whole process of the plagues as they are visited upon the land of Mitzrayim is to reveal the appearance of Yah again to his people in the places of exile, seeking their deliverance and working to bring about their liberty and their freedom to worship him. My friend, Yah is still alive and well in our day, working through our places of exile to liberate us. If we think even here in America that we have freedom of religion, wait until we come into his kingdom. Yah is looking to liberate you and I from all forms of whatever it is that confine us, from men's opinions, from constricting circumstances of how a congregation is ordered, things that are traditional in our own minds, and bring us into a place of pure worship. Perhaps one of the most famous of all the 10 plagues, all of them are impacting, all of them seem to be severe, but the one that traditionally we just kind of shudder at and think, don't think I would want to go through that, is the frogs. After the water has been turned to blood, the fish die in it. They stink as they're thrown up onto the land. The waters are filled with fish floating on top of the surface. It's a nasty mess. Pharaoh is yet hardened his heart, and the rod of Moshe is waved over, it doesn't say just the Nile, but the waters, the streams, the ponds, any source of water is now a resource of a plague of frogs. They are prophesied to be in the dwelling places of the Mitzrites, actually show up in the land of Goshen. They'll be in your kneading bowl, your food supply. You can't go anywhere or turn to anything without being encountered by frogs. Can you imagine the roar of their incessant croaking? It would have been enough to have drove anyone completely insane. And yet when Pharaoh is approached and asked, "When do you want the frogs to go?" he said, "Tomorrow." It's been well preached in evangelistic circles, at least in my church days remembrance. One more night with the frogs. Sin will keep you longer than you want to stay, take you farther than you want to go, and cost you more than you want to pay. This idea of one more night with the frogs, I can't imagine. As I read about the frogs, though, I'm reminded not only of Mitzrayim, but I'm taking to the book of Revelation, chapter number 16. And let me read for you, beginning in verse number 12 and following. "And the sixth messenger poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up in order to prepare the way of the sovereigns from the east. And I saw coming out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, 3 unclean spirits, as frogs. For they are spirits of demons, doing signs, which go out to the sovereigns of the entire world to gather them to the battle of that great day of Yahweh the Almighty. See, I'm coming as a thief. Blessed is he who is staying awake and guarding his garments, lest he walk naked, and they shall see his shame. And they gathered them together to the place called in Hebrew Har Megiddo." And so we understand then that these frog prophets, is what I call them, arise in the earth at a very strategic moment and seek to propagate an agenda, propagandize the world, deceive them through their prophetic words of some sort, prophesying the need of gathering themselves together against the nation or the people of Israel. Now, I have stood at Mount Carmel and looked across to Mount Tabor. I've stood on Mount Tabor and looked across the valley of Jezreel, the valley of Megiddo, as it's called, to Mount Carmel. It is an enormous valley. When you stand in the land of Israel, it's amazing how much geographical territory that they have squeezed into that tiny sliver of a little country. Beautiful landscape, farms, lush green. It is a spectacular view. And one would have to stretch their minds enormously to imagine enough of the world's armies gathered there to fill that valley. It is, again, a huge landscape. The scriptures talk about blood flowing to the horse's bridle. When Messiah Yeshua enters into the fray and begins to destroy the world's armies in defense of his people Israel, it's going to be an incredible battle scene. Now, how that's going to take place, how that's going to manifest itself in this physical realm, I don't know. I can't imagine how it will take place. I just know that from the scriptures, it's going to be an incredible, spectacular event. But it's preceded by words of deception, words that are intent on causing the minds of the leaders of this world to be swayed toward a particular agenda. These bug-eyed frog prophets, who are they? Where are they to be found? I don't know if they stand in the religious ranks, the political ranks, whether they are media-driven. It says that they come from the mouth of the beast, which would be, to me, a political system, out of the mouth of the false prophet, perhaps a religious system, and out of the mouth of the dragon, which is the spiritual arena. The people are just deceived by the spirit of these frogs. They are specifically called demonic. Make no mistake about it. That spirit that worked in Pharaoh, that was restricting, that was dominating, controlling, that was bent on genocide, was not just a cultural mindset of the sovereigns of Mitzrayim. It was a demonic spirit. It still is a demonic spirit. It also shows that following the frogs, as they died and were piled in heaps, and the land again began to be filled with a putrid odor, that flies began to swarm. Or at least that's the word that we translate. The word for flies can be translated differently. Arov is very similar to the word Arav or Arab, which is very closely aligned then with Arab or perhaps the Arabic peoples. Perhaps there's a connection there. But the rabbinical take on the word is that it means something swarming or crawling, such as snakes and scorpions and venomous creatures. That's where it gets interesting. Remember what Yeshua said, and I believe chapter 10 of the book of Luke, where he said that he has given to you and I authority. Let me turn there quickly. He says, see, I give you the authority to trample on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and none at all shall hurt you. The book of Revelation says that you and I are to strive to keep our garments clean and white. That is, that we would be a set-apart people and separate from the deceptions of propaganda and media-driven agendas in the last day. You and I need to recognize those sources for what they are. They're frog prophets. They are swarming flies or creatures. They are snakes and scorpions to us, promoting a serpentine doctrine. Be careful what you listen to. Be willing to step on those things and understand you, through the Word and by the power of the Ruach HaKodesh, have the anointing and the authority to overcome them. Until tomorrow's conclusion, shalom.